So, uh, hi. This is going to be a little bit of a warm-up. We're going to do Bud Brisbois' Trumpet today, which is not really just a warm-up, but it has a warm-up in it, and then it has some exercises. And I thought that would be fun to do on live stream. Also, I will have the chat up if you want to interact a little bit. If you're watching this, I'm going to practice a little bit afterwards, hopefully. I'm pretty hungry, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I'm Gabriel DiMartino, and welcome to my channel, and we're going to play some trumpet. So without further ado, let me show you this book. This is Trumpet Today. It's a really comprehensive book for being so thin. I mean, it's nothing to it, right? It's really a very small volume, and pretty cheap too. I think I got, it says right there, I got it for $5.95 at some point, probably a while back. But okay, a couple of things to know about this book. You should always read words in books. In this book, I'm not going to read it to you verbatim because you should buy this book and read it for yourself. But there's two main things. One is making sure that you breathe well and that you use your diaphragmatic muscles, sometimes surrounding the diaphragm and sometimes the diaphragm itself, to make sure that you kind of grip onto the air. Now you want to be careful that you don't do that so hard that you create a hernia or anything like that. But it is an important part of your support as a brass player to use those muscles. And so this book is kind of all about that. And, you know, he gives you some advice. He's basically saying that if you do this right, then it'll take the pressure off your lips to do all the work, and the work will be done by the air as supported by the diaphragm. And then he also says some things about practice that you can read. But let's get right into it. So this is the warm-up exercises are interesting because you're supposed to start in the same place no matter how good your high range is. This is a high range book, so it's not just a warm-up. It's about building your register, your higher register. But you start in the same place every day, and you do all of the warm-ups until the one that is your range, until you get to the one. So for instance, lesson 5 is G on top of the staff is the note that you're working on. And so you only play up until lesson 5's warm-up is done, and then you skip to that lesson. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to play up to lesson 5 because G on top of the staff is a good note to feel really good about, and it's also about half the book of warm-up. And all of the exercises for the next note are the same, roughly speaking. You're just doing partial slurs and scales, and sometimes doing them tongued as well. So it'll be a good example of what this book has in it. But the actual book goes all the way up to high D, and in fact asks you to play all the way up to high F. So ostensibly you can play up to high F if you complete this book the way that it says. I can't vouch for that. I could play a high F before I got this book, but I think it would probably work. So, like I said, without further ado, let's start with the first exercise. We're going to use a metronome as well, and you can play along. It won't take you long to figure out what we're doing. So I have it on 100, and we're doing half notes. And if you own this book, yeah, go ahead, right? Play along. It's going to be great. Here we go. And 1, 2. And I don't know if you need to rest longer. There's sort of a double bar, but it's a light one. So I don't think it's supposed to be just one measure of rest. I think take your time, right? And the second one, 2. I should have warned you before. I'm terrible at low register, and my lip is a little bit chapped from the cold weather. So I'm going to sound terrible on this, but that's okay. That's the point, right? If this is hard for you, that's what you should be doing. So I'm, again, just like the last one, I'm hopefully not making excuses, but I'm trying to make it okay for you to sound bad on this stuff, right? I sound bad. It's great. Here we go. Number 3. 1, 2. And just like that, we're doing better. Next one, 1, 2. Yeah, I wanted to really get that A. All right, next one, 5, is E flat and A flat. 2, and... Next one. And. Almost got it. All right, the next ones are basically the same, but now we're going up. So C sharp to F sharp is the next set of partials, right? And they're twice as fast, but the same amount of time overall. Okay? So you'll catch on in quarter notes instead of half notes. That's all. 1, 2. And you play the correct fingering for the last note. 1, 2, next. And remember, you're supposed to be setting up your diaphragm support, right? So usually we want the higher of the two notes. Here we go, E flat and A flat. 1, 2. Next one. 1, 2. It has a little accent I haven't really been doing. Next one. 1, 2. F sharp. 1, 2. And then finally G and C. 1, 2. Boy, I'm really hungry now. Starting to shake just from low blood sugar, huh? But okay, so now we would stop if we were doing lesson 1, which works up to C, the C that we just played, C in the staff. And the idea is, whatever you've worked your way up to, that's the note that's going to feel super secure no matter what condition you're in, right? So it wouldn't be a bad place to start for most people on C. But we're going to continue on. We're going to keep going because we're working our way up to lesson 5, right? G on top of the staff. Or actually, it might be 6. We're going to get to G. Yeah, it's lesson 5, I think. Yeah, good. Okay, so now we're doing triplet arpeggios starting on low C, right? So basically we've done 2 notes at a time and we've worked our way all the way from low F sharp up to C in the staff. Now we're going to try to get an octave at a time instead of just a partial, okay? And we'll just keep the same tempo. These are all supposed to be mezzo piano. I'm playing a little bit loud just to make sure my air is doing some work. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and... And we could probably do these consecutively, so let's just do them all, right, with only 2 beats rest between. All right, next one is C sharp, or D flat in the book. 1, 2. Just barely cracked it. But anyway, so there we go. Now we're warmed up for lesson 5, which is just going to be lots of G on top of the staff endings, just like we just did, right? So if that was physically difficult, well, this is probably where we need to be working, right? We don't want to keep going past that. And if it wasn't physically difficult, then you could go further, right? The next one is going to be, it's still, the warm-up is still chromatic, but the next one is in the book, in the lessons, I believe, is A. Yeah, and they generally are just trying to get as many partials close together as possible. So you'll do, you know, C major sort of sounds in some of this, but other times you'll do, you know, G major sounds. Same thing for A. A is written in A major, but you might do some other things just because the partials work out that way. So, but the reason I said this is a rather comprehensive book is because think about what we've done so far, right? We've done some slow slurs. We've done some faster slurs between just 2 notes. Now we've done all of our arpeggios up to the note that we want to play, which is most of our arpeggios, if I'm not mistaken, right? We've done, yeah, C all the way up to G, right? So half of them, I guess. But if you did the whole book, if you kept working, and as your range increases, you'll also have to know A flat major and A major and B flat major arpeggios, both in your ear and on your fingers. So it tends to be really comprehensive. And then in the actual lessons, we're going to play scales. And so if you think about it, the only thing that we haven't really talked about is tone. He doesn't really say that you should have a good tone because I think that's implied, that you always, of course you're going to have a good tone. And he doesn't really give you much in the way of working on it, but you can always add long tones. And you could do the exercises slower and make sure that you really have your nicest sound and that it's continually easy. But everything else is covered. We've got our high range, we've got our flexibility, we've got our scales. We haven't articulated it all, really, and we don't articulate the first time around in the actual lessons, but we do the second time in a lot of the exercises. So you add in the tongue once the slur is good, once the air and the diaphragm are working together, right? So I'm just making sure we don't have anybody watching typing me questions about this book. All right, so let's do lesson 5. I chose this tempo so we could keep it. But if this tempo is too fast for you, you're trying to work out of this book, I do recommend a metronome anyway, but you can slow it way down. Okay, here we go. We're going to do it. I'll rest a little bit between each time, but not very long, and until I feel tired. You should always rest when you feel tired, or at least a little after you feel tired. Okay, here we go. And then we do that again tongued. Okay. So it's a lot like what we've already done in the warm-up, right? But now we're going a little faster and we're expanding the range quite a lot. Next one, this is number 3. 2. You just sort of trust it, and your tongue position will do the work as long as I didn't mention this actually at the beginning, but each page says, set your diaphragm tension to the G on top of the staff for the whole exercise, right? And it has a little picture of that G. If you don't know what that means, don't do it, right? Don't try to force it to happen. Go back to the warm-up and see if you can find where that support is. But anyway, that's what we're trying to do here. And it gets harder because as you start lower, if you start on a low G, then you might relax a little more than you should, and then the G will feel like a strain. So it really should always feel like you're coming home to the G. All right? See if okay, number 4 I think now, right? Number 1. And then number 5 is just double speed. 2. Now these are hard. This next one is going to take it out of me. We'll see if we can make it. These are just octave slurs. 1, 2. Have to rest after that one a little bit because I'm supposed to do it again but tongued, and boy is it not I mean, it's a physical thing, right? You really got to hold your corners, and the idea is that you make it as easy as possible. This one's not very easy for me, possibly. So it's okay to stop for a second and give yourself a little bit of time to rest. If you really feel like you're drilling into your lips, then you need to stop for a while and really actually rest. And maybe do some of the lower ones and try to make those easier first. It doesn't say you have to make it through the lesson, right? It says you work your way through the lesson, and it says do not try this lesson until lesson 4, which would have been F, can be completed without tiring, right? So you're supposed to work your way up to this lesson. I chose it for a reason, because this one is actually pretty hard for me to get through without tiring, right? And it doesn't say how much rest. That would make a case for maybe the rest's actually being real and you're supposed to play it straight down in time. But I think the double bars make it so that you're supposed to do it pretty consecutively. So before we screw that up, let's keep going. We're supposed to do that again, but tongued. So actually the next 4 of these we do that way. 2. Extra credit on that one. I do on the faster one there. I do T T T T T T T T T K T K T K T. So I try to slow double tongue the second half of both of that and the repeat. Anyway, so here we go on to 7. Now we're playing a 2-octave scale, but we're starting in the middle, which is a very smart way to do this. Here we go. 1, 2. And then again tongued. You can double tongue or single tongue, whichever. 2. Now these next ones also take it out of me a little bit, so I tend to, nearing the end of the exercises, I tend to take a little more time in between, but not more time than it took me to play it, right? So if I rest half of the time, that's okay. If I rest a lot more than half of the time, that may be against the spirit of being able to play the last exercise without tiring. I'm not sure, but that's my sort of reading into it. So the next one is just arpeggios, and we know how to do those, but 2 octaves. And again, a smart way to do it, starting in the middle and going up first and then down and then up. And then we're also going to do this 2 times. And let's see, I know that I'm going to regret saying this, but let's see if we can do it with just the exact amount of rests that it says already and just do the whole thing repeated but tongued, okay? So slurred first and then tongued with the amount of rest that's actually written in between. Oof, I'm going to regret it, I know. There's a breath mark there that's right on the bar line. I don't take that breath mark because there's no time to do it. I'm not sure if it's just in case you want to do it or if you're supposed to take a pause. It happens the rest of these exercises, and I'm not sure really what to do with it. If I need it, I take it, and then I take it at a time, and I just come back in. Or if I'm doing it with a metronome, I might take a whole beat and then just come back in. Because there's not a really smart way to do it, I don't think. But I just try to avoid needing it. That would be the best thing, right? So, okay, now we're on to scales starting at the top. And remember, we're supposed to have set our diaphragm up for the top, so it should be easiest to start here. And it's sort of a scale and a half, so to speak. And we also do this one twice. So we'll try the same thing we just did. 2. Needed more rest. I shouldn't have tried to do it the way that we did the last one because I didn't realize it's a lot longer. Okay, one last one, and I do feel a little bit fatigued. Like I said, maybe that's a sign that this is where I belong, and I shouldn't go on to A just yet. And as a matter of fact, I've been on G for a while. I don't do this every day like I probably should, but as far as my notes that I feel really comfortable with, no matter what I'm doing, yeah, this is kind of it. Now, I can play an octave higher than this, but I can't do that at the end of a 5-hour session or something, right? Not necessarily. And so that sort of gives you a sense of like, well, what can I really do no matter what the circumstances? And it's always a lot less than you think it is, right? I'm not ashamed to admit that my range is more than an octave lower when I'm in my worst condition. So this is a way to build that. And it's strength here, sure, but it's also using that some people call it the wedge breath. That's a Bobby Shoe thing. But to support the breath in and then also exhale it with force, but useful force, not just big, not just hard, but useful this way. So I've already rested too long, but I needed it. So this one we don't do twice. We just do it the once through with the repeat. And now we're going to slur all the way up to high C. So now we're getting a different 2 octaves, right? Starting in the middle still. there's that breath again. You sort of do want it after this one. It's just a little too long, but I could have used my air better the first repeat. So anyway, that's it. That's the warm-up and the exercises. And I feel okay. You know, I don't feel super great. I also taught a bunch of lessons today earlier, but you know, I feel okay. And I feel like maybe if I did this another day or two, I would feel good enough, especially if I did it first thing in the morning. I feel like maybe tomorrow I can go to A, and then maybe the next day I can go to B flat or B, whatever order it's in. So that's Trumpet Today by Bud Brisbois. I'll show it to you again. There it is. There, I'll show you his picture. It's great. He's a killer high note player. There he is. I mean, you gotta check his stuff out. There's a bunch of like Bud Brisbois duets or Trumpet Today duets, and you can find them on YouTube ever so often. It's just the extreme high register. You think double high C is high, he's constantly playing above that. And the second trumpet parts on the duets go up to double high C sometimes. So that means he's above that. I mean, it's just really an incredible, he's an incredible talent. And this book is how he approached the high register. So if you want a register like that, then it makes sense to at least try to figure out what his book is trying to get you to do. Okay, so that's Trumpet Today. It's only a half-hour warm-up. So and I'm tired enough that I think it's probably time for me to quit. I was going to practice a little bit afterwards just for fun and to see if people came on, but since I don't have anybody in the live chat, I'll just end it here. So thank you again for coming along and watching. I hope you buy this book and play along with me, and I'm sure you'll have a killer high range in no time. Bye.